You are tuned to Kennett, Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
When we talk to some of these past chamber presidents and we say, we want to talk about your term in office, what do we find them doing when we come down here?
Well, find out what we did during my term of office. So you would think they'd have wonderful records at the chamber office, but as far as I've been able to go back so far this morning is 1987, and I'm looking for 1977.
Okay, so
Jim Baker's blaming it on somebody else. He said he didn't have a thing to do with old records.
And he can't remember a thing that went on, but we're going to sit down and we're going to pick his brains anyway about what went on in these years.
More importantly, this happened before Carol got here, so that's
that's the problem.
If Carol doesn't have a hold of it, I'm lost.
All right, but we're going to talk about past presidents of the Chamber of Commerce. Even though he's lost a whole year out of his life, we're going to talk about it. Okay, whenever you... We're here in the boardroom of the Chamber of Commerce. We've been bringing you, by way of Time for Talk cameras, some of the past presidents, and we have sitting here with us today Jerry Paul Combs, who was president in 1977. Can you remember back that far?
Vaguely.
Now you did have trouble because we caught you with our camera just a few moments ago. Doing what?
Well, I was trying to get brought up to speed on what we were doing in 1977, and you had given me plenty of advance notice, but I was going to get out here early enough to get the old annual banquet committee chairman and look and see who was doing what in Kennett in 1977, but as you can see, we didn't find the information out there in the archives.
So this year was a complete blank. No, it wasn't. Now, I know that you've mentioned several things to me. But first, we want to know, you're not Kennett born and bred, are you?
No, I'm from Portageville, and...
what brought you to Kennett?
Ecky Joe Brown.
Okay, I knew that, but you perhaps didn't know that.
We were both students at Central Methodist College in Fayette, and we'd never met before we went to college, and she and I met in college and dated all through college, and then I transferred to the University of Missouri, got a degree in real estate, and was going to go to work for General American Life Insurance out in Tucson, Arizona, and T.A. Brown and Charles Baker, as old saying goes, just made me an offer that I couldn't refuse.
Yes, and it had fringe benefits.
I wound up in Kennett and have never been sorry of it. Kennett's a wonderful place to live and raise a family and make a living.
Well, he sounds like he's been president of the Chamber of Commerce, doesn't he? Now, I want to know, what year did you come to Kennett?
1964.
Okay.
And again, Mr. Brown and Mr. Baker put me to work at Baker Implement Company in the parts department, and they said I needed to learn the business. And
did you know anything about cotton pickers?
No, there was probably 35 employees at Baker Implement Company, and 34 of them knew more about the business than I did. I had a college education and didn't know a thing.
Okay, all right. Now, you came in 64 and you were president of the Chamber of Commerce in 77. So you made what'd you do, get in the chamber just as a member quickly?
Well, I became president and pretty well manager of Baker Implement Company in about 1968, and at that time I became the member for Baker Implement Company of the chamber, and just was fortunate enough to get elected to the board and then worked on up and became president in 1976.
Is this one of the things the chamber likes to do, is to contact businesses and get someone from every business, or as many as they can, into the chamber?
Well, yeah, for example, now the Baker Implement Company representative to the Chamber of Commerce is Paul T. And so he's been on the board of the chamber, and I am a member of the chamber now just as an individual, not a corporate member.
Okay, so
and that's pretty common to have business memberships and personal memberships also.
Okay. Okay, now tell me what you do remember about 1977. Tell me what the big issues were who was president just before you?
Well, Mike Kelly was the president right before me, and J.C. Skaggs right after me. But the big issue that we had in 1977 that I remember was trying to get a new armory built in Kennett. And we thought that was a political move, and Steve Sharp was the chairman of that committee. And as far as any one accomplishment that we were really working on at that time, the armory was the burning issue that the chamber had in front of it to try to get done.
Okay, now how did you go about this?
Well, as I said, we knew it was a political thing.
Well, now clarify that. What do you mean?
Anything that has politics involved is kind of like trying to get a new prison built in Kennett. You work at every angle you can.
But now you had better luck with the armory than we've had with the prison.
Yeah, but it's one of those memory loss things. I'm not real sure when that armory was committed to Kennett. I know that we worked on it, but I don't know when it came to fruition.
Okay, now when you say we worked on it, how do you go about what sort of things did you do?
We made all the contacts with the state and with the National Guard. And
did you travel any? Did you make any trips?
It's kind of like, no, I did not. But I'm sure that the committee did. Just like trying to get 412 done now. You ask somebody, what do you do? Well, it's hard to write down on paper because every day you're doing something. And another issue at that time was we thought Kennett was a prime location for a junior college. We had a very active education committee at that time. And once again, I don't know what all that committee did, but it was one of the issues in Kennett at the time. J.D. Faulkner was very active as president of the school board and was always J.D. always felt like Kennett was a great place for a junior college, and we just kept working at it. And, you get close and you think something's going to happen, and then it'd fall apart. So it's just one of those issues we've always worked toward. We had a very active industrial committee trying to get industry into Kennett, and evidently in 1977 we didn't have anything that was just imminent coming to town, because I recollect working on the armory and I recollect working on the education, but I don't have any memories of getting real close to any new industries.
Okay. Actually, that junior college thing, we're still working on some aspect of that with the acquisition of the Kroger, the old Kroger property, aren't we? As far as some sort of an educational thing.
Yeah, and I'm not up to speed on exactly what they're going to do with that. It sounds like a wonderful opportunity. It's a great location. Looks like the Kennett put together a real good deal to get that, and it's kind of like a spec building. If you've got something to start with, it gives you a whole lot to move forward.
Okay. Jerry Paul, when I first called and tried to get this appointment with you, you were going to be gone this week and this week and this week. What presently occupies a lot of your time?
Well, this year I'm fortunate to serve as president of the North American Equipment Dealers Association.
The North American?
Yeah, it's an association of farm equipment dealers made up of about 6,000 dealers all across North America and Canada. And Eki and I have been fortunate enough to get to go to 9 conventions this winter from November through February all over North America, and it's just farm equipment conventions. Some of them are held, one of them
is that why you bought a motorcycle and got her a helmet too to ride?
No, the motorcycle is a wonderful machine, but it's not too handy in November and January.
Okay.
But I hope to get her on it this spring.
All right. Now, you travel with this new task you have as president, North American Equipment. Say it again.
North American Equipment Dealers Association.
Okay. All right. Now, undoubtedly that ties in with the business you're in right now. But what do you see in this? What advantage is this giving you? What sort of an oversight do you have?
Well, we represent farm equipment dealers politically with the national government. In other words, we have a lobbyist in Washington. We have a lobbyist in every state and every province of Canada and the United States. We're very active political to try to protect the interest of farm equipment dealers. We also are very active in our relationships with the major manufacturers, John Deere Company, Case Company, New Holland Company. There's always issues between major manufacturers and the representative, the local dealer. And our association is the liaison between those groups. Our association does for the farm equipment industry basically the exact same thing that the Chamber of Commerce of Kennett, the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, and the National Chamber of Commerce does for business in general. It's exactly the same type of relationship.
Jerry Paul, you said you began working here in this Kennett area in 1964. What about, of course I know you're in the implement business, what about the changes you have seen?
Well, the biggest change that I've seen as it related to agriculture in Kennett is from 1964, when I came to Kennett, up until about 1980, we all thought that farmland could not go down in value. In other words, the farm economy was on an upswing. Land had gone up. For my adult life, anytime you bought a farm, it increased in value. And 1980 came along, and all through the early part of the 80s, we saw land values in this part of the country decrease, decrease, and decrease. This was a major adjustment to somebody my age. Now, Mr. Baker and Mr. Brown, who had been training me, kept telling me that land can go down, but I didn't believe them.
Now,
I thought it was always going to go up.
They started in the 30s, right?
That's correct. They saw the adjustment back in the 30s. Then it went up until the 1980s. I saw the adjustment in the 80s. Now, in the 90s, land values have continued to climb. They're right back up now as high as they were back in 1979 and maybe higher.
Okay, why did they go down in the 80s?
Because the farm commodity prices skyrocketed in the late 70s, and everybody planted everything that they could possibly raise, and we just got an oversupply of farm commodities. Therefore, the prices went down, and they stayed down. We can stand prices to go down and stay down for short periods of time, 1 year, maybe 2 years. But when those prices go down and stay down for 3 or 4 years, we can't compensate. Therefore, land values went down all over North America. But as the commodity prices came back up, we as a farm economy rebounded, and for the last several years, I think we've been riding a crest and been kind of a boom for the farm economy in general across North America. Now, you'll have isolated pockets where, due to the weather or some catastrophe, they were not prosperous, but basically the farm economy has been real good for the last several years.
Your prediction, I take it, is that we're going to see fewer and fewer small farms going to the larger farms with all of this technology that you're talking about.
Yes, that trend is just taking place. It's going forward. There's no way that we're going to reverse it. It's happening in Kennett. The Chamber of Commerce recognizes it. You know, the farm sector is doing just exactly like our small businesses in Kennett. You just have to have the economies of scale, and the equipment's so expensive, the input costs are so expensive that you just have to get a little larger and become a little more efficient to survive and compete.
You've been listening to Jerry Paul Combs. He was president of the Chamber of Commerce in 1977 and been here quite a few years. Jerry Paul, thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you, and I'm glad we got off of something on the current times that I can remember. 1977, I had a little problem with it.
Okay.
You have been watching Time for Talk. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program.